Hello my friends, welcome back to another tutorial. Slightly different this week. As you can see behind me, I hope, a very big canvas, a nice big canvas. This is a commission I'm doing, so I thought, why not take you along for the ride and show you what I'm doing. This is going to be a big seascape. It's 100 centimeters wide by 50 centimeters high, so a nice big canvas. This, as I said, it's a commission, so I'll be taking my time. I'm going to split this up into probably three tutorials, three 60-minute tutorials perhaps, maybe less. So it's going to be a nice big seascape. It's actually Skellig Michael, off the coast of Ireland. I don't know if you can see a very light sketch here. I don't know if I can zoom in here now and show you the sketch. Okay. Now, we have some waves crashing down the bottom. There's a big rocky island out there in the middle of the ocean. I cannot put the reference photograph up on the screen for you. Let me just hold on. I'm using my phone. I have my camera here. Look, there's my camera all set up, ready to go. I'm using my phone just for this part. I can't put my reference photograph up because it's going to block the view. It's going to block what I'm painting. And it's so big, the reference photograph will be very small on the screen, so you will struggle to see it. But it's a beautiful kind of a stormy sky seascape, lots of colour. But look, you can just watch me painting it, and you can follow me along if you wish. Afterwards, when you see the completed painting, if you like it, you can follow me along. But yes, it's a nice big painting. I have a palette down here next to me, if you can see that. Palette, lots of colours. It was slightly awkward with a bigger canvas when you're recording because you can only fit so much into the video. So I can't put my palette up there for you to see the mixing. It's just too big. But I thought, look, you might like to see it in progress anyway. And I'll show you what I'm doing. I'll explain to you what I'm doing, and we'll get some nice textures, some nice movement in the ocean. Show you what I'm doing, explain as easily as I can. I also have a frame made for it over there, ready to go. So when this is finished, I'll put a post up on my channel and show you the finished painting, framed. So I hope you enjoy this lesson. I'd say a 3-part tutorial, I'm thinking. Let's just make a start, see how we go. I am going to just cover the sky first with some linseed oil, okay? A very light coat of linseed oil. And we'll crack on and have a bit of fun. So thank you for watching. If you're following me, thank you so much. Thank you for subscribing. And let's have a bit of fun with this. This is going to be a nice big painting, I think, and a nice tutorial as well. I think you might learn a few bits out of this. So let's go. I'll be right back. Okay, here we go. I'm just putting some linseed oil on the sky, okay? Now, just a little bit, it doesn't have to be loads. Because this is such a big sky, a big canvas even, I don't want it drying in certain parts. I want this to be nice and oily, just to allow me to take my time with the sky and mix nice colours and blend colours together. That's all, okay? That's all I want. And there is one other thing I did as well, and you'll probably know this. I don't know if you have. I removed the centre bar on this canvas, the wooden bar, the stretcher bar. I had to remove that. So it's a little bit kind of flappy and bouncy, but it's fine. I won't be pressing that hard on the canvas. And the reason I done that is because, I don't know if you've ever painted on a large canvas before, but when you're bringing your brush strokes across the middle, you tend to have this line on your painting from the stretcher bar underneath, and it's very annoying. So I just remove the stretcher bar gently from behind the canvas. When this is finished and painted, I'll reinstate the stretcher bar in behind. I'll squeeze it back in and stretch it, and that will pull the canvas out again. It's just much easier. There's no lines or anything like that, because I always get that every time I do it. No matter what kind of a deep canvas I'm using, you'll always see that line across your canvas straight down the middle from that stretcher bar. Okay, so this way I just think it's much easier, much easier. I'm going to start. I have a lovely sunlight coming across here, a rich dark grey-blue cloud coming across here. So I'm going to just take a brush. Now let me see what brush I'm going to use. I think I'll use this kind of old worn brush, because I can lean quite hard on this, whereas this one is still very soft, look, and it's going to be very difficult to really kind of lean down hard with this one. I'm just dampening my brush. I am going to take some white, some phthalo blue. It's an awful pity I can't show you my palette, because that's the best part of it for me. But it's just a shame, it really is. But if I put a picture of my palette here, I'm going to block half of the sky anyway. So it's just pointless, you know. I don't want to be ruining the video with a big palette or a reference photograph. I could not get a reference photograph and a palette in here somewhere, because it would just block the view completely. I'm going to start over here. Now, I'm just going to hold the canvas back a bit. Let's get this blue. Now that oil, you see how that oil on the canvas, you see that? How it just glides across. Isn't that just, I love that. I think that's fantastic, the way it just glides around. It really makes all the difference. Now, a bit more black up here. I did get permission from the customer to kind of add my own bits to it and just kind of make it my own. Okay, so I'm not copying reference photographs exactly. Basically, a free license to do what I like with this painting, just to get the essence of it. Now a little bit more blue up on this side, I can see. Nice rich colours, okay? That's probably the main thing. Rich colour. So let's put some rich colour in there. Let's get some nice dark, deep grey blues like that, okay? You can see I'm just sort of scraping colours around randomly here and there. And sometimes that's the best way to do a sky like this, or a seascape. Sometimes that is the best way. Just put loads of colour on randomly, and you can kind of soften it through then later on. So let's just have a bit of fun. I'm going to clean my brush very quickly. Okay, clean that. Lots of whitey colours in the middle. There's a bit of a soft grey as well going on. So I'm going to take some white with some black. There's a bit of a soft grey going on just around in here. So it goes from this rich dark colour into a kind of a soft grey, okay? And there's plenty of white in that now. I'm putting lots of white on this. I want it nice and thick, this paint, okay? Nice and thick. There we go. And it's just a kind of a rich, it's a kind of subtle grey. It just kind of darts across here and there in the sky. Goes into, there's a lot of white. This is all kind of a bright white over here. So I'm just going to start allowing this grey to just fizzle out. Again, more white. Allow it to just sort of disappear slowly over into this bright area. I'm going to come down here on this side, add some white here again, soften into the cloud. Just bring that down very quickly. I tend to work fast on skies like this, big skies. You know, I'm not a fan of sitting with you know, a small brush like this and going like this with clouds like that, you see. I'm not a big fan of this type of painting. I like to grab a big brush and go for it, just have a bit of fun. That's the best part of it for me. Now you probably have different ideas. You'll probably like to take your time and you know, go along slowly. That's absolutely fine and that's great, but I find being more spontaneous like this creates a much nicer painting. I find it just makes it a more for a more natural painting, okay? That's just the way I've kind of learned over the years. I'm going to go from this blue down into a pinkish colour. So some magenta and a little burnt sienna. Let me have a look. That's a nice, yeah, that's a nice colour. I like that. It comes from there down into a nice kind of a pinky, then it goes into sort of a bit of an orange down here as well. So let me just take some Naples yellow with some white, and I'm going to start transferring the colours now slightly differently. I'm going to try some cadmium red, cadmium yellow down here. Actually, what I'm going to do, I'm going to take some cadmium red and a bit of burnt sienna first. I'm going to get a nice rich warmth up there, okay? Then I'm trying cadmium red with some magenta. Alright, goes like that. Now, where they stop here, I'm just going to literally pick up plenty of white. And I'm going to just soften some white in here. I just keep glancing back at my reference photograph. We're going into the blue now. I'm going to carry the blue across ever so slightly. And it just sort of merges in over here to this light colour. And the way I paint, especially from photographs, is I just kind of look at the colours and I see where the colours are going and how they're moving. And that's how I kind of pretty much paint. It's just about colour. It's not so much about the direction of the colour, where it's going and all that kind of thing. It's just about the actual colour. What colour do you see? And that's the way I tend to paint. So if you see a whitey yellow, you just put in a whitey yellow. If you see a pinky shade, just mix a pinky shade and put in a pinky shade. That's pretty much my way of thinking and painting. Down here, this is a very bright white down here. So I'm going to just clean my brush very quickly first. You see I have a bit of blue on my brush there. So I'm going to switch and I'm going to go to this clean brush. Take a tiny bit of thinners in that. Then right into Naples yellow and a little bit of magenta. Okay, I'll go with that first because that colour gives you a very bright sunlit colour for a sky. It gives you these beautiful kind of bright whitey yellow clouds. It's like sun hitting a cloud, that type of a colour, and it's a wonderful colour, it really is. I'm going to go right down here with that, look. You probably can't see this now on camera because it's so bright. The video cameras, they don't pick up these very bright yellowy whites. It just could look kind of like a white. Yes, it just looks like a white, but it's a very bright yellowy white. Now I'm going to try a little bit of cadmium yellow, touch of cadmium red. So we're going into slightly sort of orangey pastel kind of shades, okay? Just going to bring that across there. I'm thinking maybe a touch more cadmium red. It could even be a pinky-ish, you see? Could be even a pinky kind of a shade. It's really just down in one corner, okay? We have a beautiful yellowy colour that kind of comes through on this side. Now I think what I might do first, before I move forward, is soften all of this together. I can add more, or we can take off some more, whatever we like. We can add as we go along. Let's start up here, look. I'm just going to go very randomly over this, soften all of these together. Picking up into the yellow, the white, or not the yellow, picking over into the white here, soften it all. Just get a nice smooth sky first, and we'll continue on then, okay? We could even create some movement as well. All right, that's not too bad. Okay. I'm going to come down into the soft grey. Maybe just go around in circles, etc. Just any way at all you have to do it, just to soften it together. Just do it whichever way you like, whichever way you enjoy doing it. There's no rules with this really. I just want to soften this before I continue on. So these are kind of the background colours pretty much done, if you know what I mean. Now we could create a bit of movement. Let's maybe drag them all down from up here. So switch them down at an angle. Create a bit of drama. May or may not work, I don't know, but let's just try it. Let's come down at an angle. There we go. Yeah, that's better. I think that's a nice bit of movement in that sky up there, don't you? Now I'm going to step back for a moment and take a quick look. Now this is what the customer specified. So you have to do what the customer wants, isn't that right? So I am going to, let me see, I'm going to darken across here. This needs to be darker. On the photograph it's much, much darker. So a bit of black, phthalo blue and magenta. I'm doing my best now to describe the colours I'm using, okay? Nice and rich, they're very rich colours actually. A little bit of cadmium red. And I just want to create the impression of kind of clouds, rumbling clouds, okay? That type of feeling, you see what I mean? And these will all be kind of softened out again, eventually. So let's just get a couple there. All right, that's kind of fizzling out. There's one right there. These will just disappear into the bottom and the horizon. All right, so we have a bit more movement there. I'll do the same this side up here. Bit more paint. So phthalo blue, magenta, touch black. Okay, with that it comes across maybe a bit more. It's just little circles, okay? That's my technique, that's what I do, little circles. Small, small circles, look. And maybe tiniest touch of black up in here. I'm stretching across the canvas here now to get this. I don't want you looking at my bald head in the camera. No, 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 I don't want that. We don't want that, do we? Right, I clean my brush. I'm going to go for a nice rich pinky shade again. So I'm going to continue working on this side for a while. I'm going to try some magenta, little burnt sienna. So I have a very browny pink. See that? Very browny kind of a pinky shade. That kind of comes over, it stops, and you know, it just kind of merges into the sky above. Lovely little circles again. That just helps merge all the colours together. And what this does is it creates different shades. When I'm merging colours like this, it creates different shades in that colour, which is nice. I like that. All right, that's quite nice. I think that's all right. Now I'll clean my brush again, and I'll turn my tissue over, keep it nice and clean. And then we have to go. There's a very rich orange coming into this. It's like a sunburst kind of orange. I'm going to try some cadmium yellow, bit of cadmium red, and I'm going to stick more on the red side first, okay? So it'll be a lot more reddy before it's going to go yellow. That's how you avoid the muddy colours, all right? Bit more of that, okay? Maybe a tiny touch of this magenta. Could try a tiny touch of magenta. So this orangey colour will mix much easier rather than putting a yellow. So I'll start with this orangey shade. All right. So that's the orange in there. Then we start going more into a deep, deep, deep orange, a reddy orange. So cadmium yellow, lots of thick cadmium yellow, lots of thick cadmium red. And start putting that colour in. I could even, if I took a bit more cadmium red and a touch of magenta, I could even soften that in up here as well. Look, that would be nice, wouldn't it? So we have a nice, I like that, that's a nice arrangement of colours up there, isn't it? It's like all the complementary colours on a palette mixing in one corner. But I will soften them all together. I have to soften all these together. I'm grabbing another clean, soft brush. And when it's gently, where they meet, just gently soften it together. Again, making it lovely and soft, but I'm not getting rid of the brush marks completely. You see what I mean? I'm leaving some of the brush marks to suggest movement. just like that. Now, give that a good clean. Let's hope there's no blue left on this. I don't want any muddy colours. I'm going to soften that down into the orange. And the final colour then, you see, is this very rich yellow down the bottom. Let me just stop and take a look at that. That's quite nice, isn't it? I don't think that's too bad. Nice transition from one colour into the next. Let's go for this bright. We have a very bright yellowy orange down here. I may have to use a palette knife to get that colour on because there's so much yellow in it. Let me try this. Okay. It's not too bad. Tiny touch of red perhaps. And it just seems to be kind of down in one corner here. It's just a very rich yellowy orange colour. I'm just getting more cadmium yellow on my palette. I hope I'm explaining everything to you okay as I'm going along. I'm trying my best to make this completely understandable, if that makes sense. Bit more of the red perhaps in there. There's just this lovely yellowy colour. It's kind of a yellow, but there's a hint of orange in there, if you know what I mean. That kind of a colour perhaps. Yeah, I think that's it. I think we're there. I think we have the colour we want. And this just kind of fizzles away. You see what I mean? Maybe take a bit more cadmium red. I could try a touch of burnt sienna, actually, as well. That might help soften things together just slightly. I'm going to stop at that for a moment. I'm going to soften those together. Very gently, nice and gently. Just want to take the brush strokes out of the paint, that's all. I want to leave some of the marks from the brush, but just want to get rid of the brush strokes, the thick brush strokes. I just want to lose those and leave all this just sort of slowly edge its way over into the landscape. Okay. Now that is very close to the photograph, okay? From where I can see it, it's very close. What I am going to do is, again, I'm going to soften. I'll get my soft blender brush with the blue on it. I'm going to come over here, soften those, but I'm dragging it down at this angle. I want the eyes to come into the center of the painting, okay? That's what I want. Whether that happens or not, I don't know. I hope it does. It's very difficult to tell until the painting is finished, isn't it? Just going to soften this across the bottom. It's no harm that there's a couple of brush marks there. That gives it the feeling of an oil painting, perhaps. You see, just let them swoosh down. Let's stop again. I'm going to stop again, sit back and take a look. The next thing I'm going to do is get a palette knife. I think this needs a palette knife. There's a lot of kind of white clouds around the centre of this. And there's a good reason. In order for this lovely dark kind of island, rocky island, to stand out, it needs a bright background. So I'm simply going to take some white and I'm going to start scraping some white here and there. Lots of white on the palette knife. There's even a bit of yellow in there as well, doesn't matter. That will help brighten it. You can see lots of white. Suggestions of white clouds just floating along. And you can even soften this in with your palette knife itself. You don't have to use the blender brush if you don't want. But you could use the palette knife to soften it in and create some texture in the impression of cloud. So, there we go. That's what I'm going to do. I'll try it anyway. All we can do is try, isn't that right? If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. It's only paint. And we can fix it if it doesn't work out. Let's just go like that. Look, lots of white cloud dancing around up in that sky. Down here, we'll soften it across into the yellow. Now, give that a quick clean. Pick up some more. Got some nice white behind there. Could suggest some proper thick clouds as well if we want. Let me stop and have a look at this. You see, it's very difficult on camera to see the texture. It's very difficult. You probably can't see much of it, but up close you can see all the texture of the knife working its way through the paint, and it's a lovely effect. So it might be a little bit more difficult for you to see, and I apologize for that. I suppose it's just the nature of video, isn't it? Sometimes you can see things on it, sometimes you can't. You know, it's very hit and miss with video. And this is a good quality camera. This is a very high definition video, but even still you can't make out little details. Now that might be frustrating for you. I do apologize. Okay. Now, that's not bad. I need some down here. I need to brighten up that down there with some white. I'm going to just go across like that. Little semicircles. You see what I mean? Look. Little circles. Like so. Couple along here. And I think this texture will really add to the painting when it's finished as well. It's nice to see a bit of texture, I think, in a seascape sky like this. It's nice to see a little bit of texture from a palette knife or something. I think it just adds to the painting, doesn't it? Let me see. Might go up here and just add a little bit in there. Just separate those, just ever so slightly. Up there like that. Okay. Yeah, we're going well. I'm just thinking of balance. I think it needs to come up this way a bit more, the white. I think it does. I think we need to cut through this cloud ever so slightly. I want a nice balance on the painting. I don't want just a blob of white in the middle and colour on each side. I want to sort of merge them together like that. Okay, that's my idea. That's what I'm thinking. It might not work, but that's what I'm thinking. I'm going to drag this down like that. Look, create some movement or something in the sky. Just create something, anything. How's that even? I think that's not too bad. Yes, okay, I'm going to just here and there soften one or two of them out. Just one or two. I don't want so much texture on the sky. You know, I don't want it full of texture, but just a little tiny amount here and there. You see, I'm just kind of leaving a lot of this, using my brush to create that movement. Let me clean that down here and just maybe soften a little bit across here and there. It's not too much, I don't think. I think it looks all right. So I've still kept a bit of texture on it. I think that's quite nice. And I think 27 minutes, not bad at all. We are 27 minutes in. I think I'll just put on the base coat of this. What do we reckon? Have we time? I think we should. And you can see them properly, what I mean by the silhouette. It's just a very, very dark silhouette. It's like a rich bluey shadow colour. I'll try it. Let's mix a bit of colour up here. Bit of blue, black, bit of magenta. That's a bit dark. I might take a bit of burnt umber into that. The burnt umber will tone that right down. And just very quickly getting the shape of this. Comes out like that. Okay. Comes up and there's a very good point up there. Comes down. And fill this in. I can fill everything in fact. And we put on highlights and stuff later on. Bit of blue. It's very dark in the middle here. Very, very dark. There's a lot of blue in here. You can already begin to see how that silhouette is standing out on the painting from everything else. Okay, coming down here and taking another little bit of a lump there, a little bit of a ridge coming out. And then comes down. There's one or two here and there. We have hints of a lighter colour in here and there, like a lighter, misty sort of feeling. Maybe just along the edge there. Now, over on this side, we have a very high point here that comes down. At least if I had the silhouette of the cliff in, you know, we have a good reference point then for part 2, don't we? We have a good indication of where we're going with this. So it comes down like that. There's a couple now of coming off of this. A couple of nice ridges coming off of it like that. Look, just a couple of small pieces. Get a bit of brown, bit of sienna. Take me some sienna here. Just get a nice dark colour at the bottom over here. Now this is pretty close to what I'm painting. Again, it's never going to be spot on, but it's a pretty close representation of what I can see in front of me. And there we go. Albeit slightly wider. I had to widen it slightly because the canvas is much wider than the aspect ratio of the photograph. The photograph is kind of more here, but it's a wider canvas, so I have to stretch it slightly. No, that's not bad. I'm just going to take a bit of black and a bit of phthalo blue. There's some very rich kind of dark spots here and there. I'm just going to pop those in, particularly up around the top edge up there. Grab some phthalo blue on its own. There's a lot of blue in this cliff, this island out here. There's a lot of rich dark kind of blue in it. Take another bit of blue for here. There's a nice rich blue colour in there. That will form a lovely base for all of our mistiness there later on, okay? Part 2. We'll do lots of lovely mist here and there. Now, there we go. I have, in essence, that's the entire cliff kind of painted of Skellig Michael rather. We have a kind of a ridge that comes across here. It's a separate kind of cliff face here. I'm just going to pop it in just now, just while I'm here, and get that nice dark part in. A little bit of dark around here, a bit of black. Just picking out the darker sections, that's all I'm doing. Maybe a little bit of black along this edge over here. Like that. And just a bit down that corner there. Now, I'm done. And my friends, that is part 1 finished. I think so far, I'm quite happy with this. I think that looks like a nice... Let me just move the camera back here a little bit so you can see everything. I hope you can anyway. No, that looks like a nice start to a big colourful seascape. It looks like a nice start. In part 2, I will finish all this. We'll have some nice mistiness over here in the distance, some highlights from the sky on all of these ridges. And once that's done, we're onto this ocean with crashing waves in and around the front, you know, lots of foam and all of that kind of stuff. So we're going quite well. I'm very happy with this so far. Thank you for watching part 1. I will be back with part 2. It could be a day, 2 days, but I will be back very soon. Watch out. Have yourselves a lovely day. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate your support as well, by the way. Thank you so much. And happy painting. I'll see you very soon.